Welcome, everybody, to the XP Billionaires podcast, the podcast that's all RPGs all the time. If we ever run out of RPGs or they ever stop getting made, well, we have thousands to look back on at this point. So we'll always have something for everyone to talk about. So, yay, us. All right, this is Rayfe, your host, along with my other co-hosts, Sky Knight, Irene Rogue, and the Mel Zerker. Sky, how are you doing today?
Oh, I'm fine. I'm fine. I am so deep into Disgaea 5 that it's sickening and I may never come out.
I understand that. I fell to it at the same time. The only thing that pulled me out was the Yakuza collection at this point. So I'm playing Yakuza 5 right now, and I can't stop playing that. I actually just got to the new character. I think his name was Shimada. Or Shinada. I've gotten this wrong. I know I have.
Shinada. It's Shinada. Saw it when you were playing.
Okay. Yeah, he's basically a journalist who works for porn magazines. So he's he's a disgraced baseball player, I think. I'm not sure the story behind that yet, but we'll get to that soon. So, but I did just finish playing as Akiyama, who is my favorite character in the series, and I also teamed up with Haruka, who basically I spent playing around as doing dance battles because that's fun.
Yep. It's very un-Yakuza.
No, it's very Yakuza.
That series is bonkers.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. Irene, how are you today?
I'm pretty tired. It's been a week.
Yeah, no, that's understandable. I don't want to, pour out your story to our listeners, but it has not been a good week for Irene. But we do the best we can, and we're glad to have you here no matter what.
Yes,
thanks.
we will try. We will do our best to boost you with our enthusiasm.
Oh, that is appreciated nonetheless, even if it's a little like I'm so tired. Oh my God. But at least I've been able to relax a little bit with some video games, so it's helped.
Oh, that's good. That's good. And you know what? Video games make just as good as therapy as any doctor out there. So
sometimes, yeah.
Yeah. And all right, the Mel Zerker, how are you doing today?
Pretty good. I'm actively downloading a game right now that I'm excited to play. So let's hope the stream is good. It's called Observation. It's you play as an AI, and it's kind of like a adventure puzzle game. So I'm really excited to play that. So
that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome. All right. Well, all the introductions out of the way, let's get right down to it today. Welcome to our first quote-unquote top 3 episode of 2020. Now, I say that in quotes because with the addition of the Mel Zerker, our old top 3 format would now be a much longer episode with her addition. So that being said, we're going to try changing up the formula a little bit this week. What we're going to do is we're going to have a runner-up followed by our top pick. So basically, we're going to turn it into a top 2. And we're going to see how that goes. If it runs great for time, excellent. If not, we'll find another way to kind of work it around. We'll see how it goes. In the meantime, what is the topic of our top 2 today? Well, we are going to be discussing the top playable female RPG characters. We're going to start with our runners-up, and Mel, you've drawn the short straw today, so you are going first.
The short straw to talk about my favorite female characters is like the easiest thing. Well, I guess the hardest part is figuring out which one. So I played a lot with a lot of different options. I mean, I feel like there's always those ones that are going to be in the tops, right? Like Mass Effect, Dragon Age, Prey, Horizon Zero Dawn. But I decided to pick my runner-up as Emily Caldwin, who is in Dishonored 2. She's also in Dishonored 1, but not as a playable character. And I just really love how you see her build as a character. So in the first game, you're kind of her father figure, and she sees all the things that you do, and her character is built off of that. And when you meet her again in Dishonored 2, she's kind of become a bit of a kind of spoiled brat. She's deeply flawed. She's kind of impulsive. and she doesn't really know how to be a good leader yet. And I think throughout the story, we really see her grow and change, and we end up with a character who I think is even more interesting than Corvo, who's leading the first game. So I think that's a pretty stand-up character.
I kind of went a similar route to it by picking, at least for my runner-up, someone who was also interesting and flawed and actually has character development.
You mean we don't want to just play a character who's perfect all the time?
Well, yeah, exactly.
What? I thought this was a power fantasy. What are we doing?
We're suckers for complexity?
I'll take it.
Yeah, me too.
All right. Well, Sky, given the circumstances, don't keep us in suspense. Why don't you tell us who yours is?
All right. Well, mine is I'm going with one of my very favorite characters of all time, Cloche Lethal Pastalia from Ars Nelico 2 Melody of Metaphalica. Now, Cloche at first seems like a very sort of stuck-up, snobby young woman in a position of power. But as you start playing the game, that facade starts to unravel very quickly. And you find out she's actually deeply lonely, insecure, and really stressed out. Because frankly, her position is mostly a facade in and of itself. She's a puppet. She really doesn't have a lot of power, and it means that, a lot of the things she wants to do to help people, she can't do. And one of the things that happens with her is, she feels like she has to be defensive about liking the things that normal girls like. Like, she likes cute things. She just wants to be, seen as a person, not as this exalted figure from their church. And throughout the game, Cloche learns to trust her, trust people, trust her friends. She learns how to be a friend because she's been so alone. And you realize she's actually quite lovely. She's just been in a position which really sucks, and she had unhealthy coping mechanisms. And I might just be realizing right now that I maybe relate to her too hard, but this may be why I love Cloche so much. Oops. But yeah, Cloche is really interesting and awesome. She's a powerful spellcaster. She's the art, her outfit's really quite cool, actually. I love her design. So there's a lot to like here, and I mean, it's a game from the PS2 era, and it's stuck with me all this time, so it says something.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Irene, do you have yours?
Yeah, I think so.
All righty.
I'm just trying to decide who my runner-up is and who my top one is, but I think I'm going to put Velvet Crow from Tales of Berseria as my runner-up female playable character. Now, Velvet starts out the game as a sort of like innocent, wide-eyed girl who only wants the approval of like her tutor and her mentor, essentially. But that quickly all gets taken away from her when her mentor sacrifices her brother, like in front of her, in order to gain power for himself. So the entirety of Tales of Berseria is basically her revenge story against this antagonist who the entire world perceives as like a paragon of virtue. So much so that she becomes actually the first Lord of Calamity that the world has ever seen. Like, she becomes this almost unstoppable force of darkness, which I thought was a really interesting take. Her rage is... I can't describe it. She's so different, I guess, from from the way a lot of female characters are kind of written in that role, where they're like cold and distant and quiet, where Velvet instead would quite clearly destroy her own body if it meant a shot at getting a shot at this guy. And is not quiet about it, not in the slightest. I really liked that about the character, that she was allowed to express, anger and absolute hatred for this person who she perceives as taking away everything from her. And really, she's not wrong. He has, and he's done worse things, to be honest. And based on her trajectory, the story is not going to end in a place that's happy. And they managed to, despite the ending not being oh, we've saved the world and all is good in its entirety, I think they nail it, because Velvet was not one who was ever going to move on after this quest. When you start out on a journey of revenge, you dig 2 graves. There was not going to be anything left of her after it. And I thought it was a really interesting take, especially for a female character.
Well, yeah, revenge stories tend to be very much dominated by male characters. I've never really thought about that before, but when you do...
Yeah, there's a sense that you should turn the other cheek if you're, a woman, and just accept that this has happened to you.
Or you undertake your revenge story somewhat like Primrose, where you endure rather than seek to destroy.
Yeah, I mean, usually, Primrose eventually, got there.
Yeah, she did, but her whole revenge story was this seething patience.
Yeah, she, and I guess it depends whether or not you're starting from a place of strength or not.
I guess, but Velvet lost her arm and was in jail. She started off she'd been in prison for a year by the time you actually get control of her again. At the bottom of a lightless hole forgotten by the world.
Yikes.
Yeah, she was not in a good place. Right after that, there's actually a sequence where she's escaping. And I can't remember who's with her. But she has to leap across a gorge, and when she does, she doesn't stick the landing, and she dislocates her shoulder. So her companion's holy shit, you've dislocated your shoulder. Here, let me help you. And she just walks over to a wall and jams it back into place viciously. Just not even missing a beat. Her hatred is really her driving force, and it burns so intensely that it threatens to consume her. And she knows this, and it's okay. She doesn't give a shit.
Stories of desperation are not commonly found with female characters. And that's really interesting, because I think maybe there's this underlying thought of, well, the misogynistic idea of men being the strong ones, men being the violent ones. In a way, it's sort of a subversion of the gender role here.
It is, but they still they don't pull a lightning on her and just put a male character inside a female body, which is what I felt with Lightning, especially from the first Final Fantasy 13. She eventually evolved, but the first one, it felt very much like they were just we're not going to change anything about this character except make it a woman. And I don't know, Velvet, I felt like she was definitely a character that was conceived whole cloth as this sort of hell hath no fury like a woman scorned, or in this case, a woman wronged. And they were yeah, how about we just dial that up to 11? To the point where Tales of Berseria is actually a prequel game, right? To Tales of Zestiria. And in Tales of Zestiria, you're playing as the messianic figure going to fight the Lord of Calamity. Velvet was the original Lord of Calamity. She started the whole fucking cycle where the Lord of Calamity gets reborn.
Well, folks, don't say that there are not interesting female characters in RPGs. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, no shit. And actually, from a costume perspective, I'm just going to point out, like, her costume is incredibly sexy. It's very sexy. Like, you wonder why, like, they would put her in this outfit, and it becomes clear right off the bat that it's because she doesn't care. She wears enough rags to not slow her down, but she really doesn't give a shit what you think of what she's wearing.
No, that's awesome. I'm gonna have to get to that one at some point. So
Her series
yeah,
is very much worth playing.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I will look into it once my Yakuza fix has been finally sated. But in the meantime, I guess I'll give off my runner up. I've gone a little unconventional, sticking to comic book lore, and my choice is Mary Jane Watson from the Spider-Man PS4 release. I cannot tell if this version of Mary Jane is lacking fear or sanity. MJ is playable during certain sequences throughout the game, and every time she's sneaking around, she's taken on the role of an investigative journalist in this iteration, which is different for me. I don't know. I haven't followed the comic book lore in a while, but I've always remembered MJ as more of a model, an actress, that kind of thing. So seeing her in this role is completely different, and I love it. I think she does a fantastic job with it. But I've got to say, like playing these little maps where you're sneaking around and you can't like walk into broken glass bottles or you have to knock something over to move people out of the way. Like, they're probably more terrifying than swinging through New York thousands of feet in the air. It's insane. And then when she gets caught, like it's just that much more like heart pounding. But overall, I mean, the most important thing is she's smart, she's brave, and she's able to put up with Peter Parker's shit, which seems to be a thing, and that's why they're not in a relationship at this point throughout the game. So, I mean, for all of those qualities, I honestly think she deserves a medal.
Also, like, MJ, if you're listening, don't take him back. As much as he's Spider-Man, and you understand, he's still a giant flake, and you deserve better.
Yeah, all those brains, and he hasn't bothered to read the Book of Love. So those are the runners up, and all of those were pretty awesome. So how are we going to top it? Well, Mel, why don't you tell us how you're going to top it?
So, as I was going through my list, I realized that I may have picked the same character twice, but in different media. Because my top choice is Clementine from The Walking Dead. Again, I have not finished the final game because my heart is not ready for it. But again, like Clem is this strong, smart kid. We see like that she's willing to take risks, and we see as the game evolves that she goes from being, an 11-year-old, or I think she starts the game at 7 or 8. She's in second grade. And we see her all the way up to, being a mother and trying to teach her child right and wrong in this world of horrible, horrible things. And I think that's a story we don't see enough about. We're getting to the point where there's a lot of stories of fathers and sons in media. And I really love that we get to see kind of a mother's story. I think it's a really, really powerful narrative. She's trying really hard to teach AJ what's right. And she has also not had kind of a full, healthy upbringing. I think that leads to some really, really interesting questions.
No, that's awesome. Okay. So, Sky, what's your number one now?
Well, my number one, it's going to be a Gust double feature. It's Tottoria Hellmold, aka Tottori, from Atelier Tottori, the Adventurer of Ireland. So, Tottori is pure determination stuffed into this little wisp of a teenage girl. Her mother went missing sometime before the game. Her mother was this adventurer, and Tottori wants to find her mom. To do so, she will need to become an adventurer herself, and nobody really thinks she can do it, but she won't be told otherwise. Despite her older sister being really insistent that she shouldn't be doing this. And I admire Tottori because of this determination. Like, just this sheer refusal to listen to the naysayers. She believed in herself. And then she actually went and made good on it. She rose to the occasion, accepted help of others when she needed it, and became one hell of an adventurer. Love this girl. She's sweet, she's smart, really smart. Especially learning alchemy from someone like Rorona, who is the living embodiment of disaster. Rorona, too much of a disaster human to be a good teacher. So yeah, Totori, she's a great character. She's probably the most stable of the Arland alchemists. And I love Totori's scenes in Atelier Lelua, which was the fourth Arland game. Her scenes in that are hilarious. Between her and Mimi, they act like an old married couple. I am convinced they are wife and wife. It's freaking hilarious. It's almost worth playing the game just for that alone.
Yeah, I remember you going off on how amazing Totori was, and I watched a lot of your playthroughs of most of the Arlen games, to be honest. And yeah, Totori definitely felt like it was your favorite out of the Arlen original trilogy. I don't know how it is now that it stacks up to, with Lulua's edition, but yeah, I clearly you definitely like her.
Well, yeah, and don't get me wrong, I like the other Arland alchemists too, particularly Rorona. But Totori is just she's such a sweetheart and yet just this force of nature at the same time. She defies expectation, and that's probably the number one reason I like her, actually. It's like, you defy expectation, I like you.
No, fair enough. Fair enough. All right, Irene, your top pick is upon us.
So my top pick for the evening, which I wrestled back and forth with, but eventually decided no, I had to give it to her, is Senua from Hellblade, Senua's Sacrifice. Now, this is a character that is plagued by mental illness and is still willing to, like, brave the depths of hell itself in order to rescue someone close to her. And Senua plays the dual role of both antagonist and protagonist, because not only is her journey into hell basically entirely in her own mind, but what she's fighting up against is the part of herself that's unwilling to let go of her departed loved one, which is just, it's easy to understand. It's very empathetic. Everyone understands that impulse to just cling for as long as you can, even though, like, this person is gone and there's nothing you can do about it. And Senua has to overcome this impulse within herself, which has taken the form of Hela, the goddess of the underworld, of the Norse underworld, who has Dillion's soul and refuses to relinquish it. In fact, it's only at the end of the game where Senua is knocked to the ground in a drag-down fight that it becomes clear that she's her own biggest obstacle at this point. And I really liked that dichotomy where she was revealed to be both hero and villain in her own story.
Yeah, we'll put a spoiler warning on this episode, but I don't know how you would talk about Senua without going into spoilers.
Exactly. Like, that's the thing, right? And to top it all off, like, she's supremely competent despite the fact that she has this crippling mental illness. Like, she's not a baby. And actually her relationship with Dillion was so special because he was one of the few people that didn't infantilize her about her mental illness, about her connection to the darkness as everybody else saw it. Like, her father was terrified of it. So he would, again, lock her in a lightless hole, trying to, like, hide her away from the world because he was afraid of her visions of what she could do. In fact, her mother also suffered from the same problem, and he eventually murdered her. So she didn't exactly have a great home life. She's haunted by the specter of how other people treated her. And Dillion was so special because he treated her like he treated everybody else. And he loved her, like, genuinely loved her. it was really nice, especially in an RPG or like a game, to see a relationship like between somebody who is, neurotypical and someone who's not, and like still be deep and meaningful, right? Like you don't get a whole lot of that. And there's like this portrayal in media of people who aren't neurotypical as like so alien that it's impossible to really get close to them. But that's not true at all. So it was really refreshing to see this relationship, and it was made it that much more heartbreaking to know that Senua had lost it.
Yeah, absolutely. She, man, her situation sucks. But like when I watched you play through the ending, I honestly, I bawled my eyes out. It's very, very powerful to see her come through it all. And it's really nice to know that there was light at the end of the tunnel for someone who had been through so much shit.
Right? It was wonderful to see her actually actually be able to let go of Dillian. To basically tell the part of herself that was never going to stop hounding her to hold on to her. Like, you were basically playing as the antagonist the whole time. You're playing as the part of Senua who was going to dog the rest of her psyche with this ultimately self-destructive obsession to change something she couldn't change. And it was really powerful to see her as Hela just sort of let go of him. Not necessarily forget him, but understand that she can't do anything more for him. And to see her sort of like bathed in light afterwards and saying like, okay, I've found my feet and I can continue on even though I don't have him right next to me.
Yeah, no, Senua was a fantastic character, and it was fleshed out incredibly well. I'm actually looking forward to seeing what's going to happen with her in the upcoming sequels. So I think it's going to be a really, really interesting continuation here. So let's all look forward to that. But all right, lastly, we've got my top choice, and well, let's see if I can surprise y'all. I probably can't, but here we go. My number one choice has been Estelle Bright from The Legend of Heroes: Trails in the Sky.
No. Really?
Who would have guessed?
Well, I mean, you haven't seen much of the Sky games because I've been playing them on the PSP, so it could have been it could have been other characters. It could have been someone from Cold Steel, Always that possibility.
No.
All right, fair enough. Anyway, so Estelle basically starts out with a very childlike ambition. Her goal is to follow in her father's footsteps and become a bracer. Throughout the first game, she's got a lot to learn. And at the end of it, she's given a very, very important goal in that she has to go and find someone very important to her. While she wants to face that goal head on, she does understand, and we find this out at the very beginning of the second game, that she is thoroughly unprepared for it and decides to spend several months undergoing intensive bracer training to get stronger. She matures greatly over the course of all of her journeys. She's funny. She's got her own sense of silliness. Her interactions with her brother Joshua are just priceless. They get into some crazy adventures, especially in the first game. And quite honestly, her bow staff combat skills, they are nothing to shake a stick at.
Ha
Thank you.
I get
Damn,
it.
that was well timed.
Yes, it was. But yeah, no, again, Estelle and the Trail series, they've made some fantastic female characters. I love so many of the ones that are out there, and they grow so much throughout their games. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Play the series if you get the chance. I cannot stress it enough. But on that note, that's my random Trails plug for this week. Let's end it off there. But yeah, so those are our top female characters. For at least for this very moment, we might do this one again because it's there's plenty more out there where that came from. So I'd love to see more of that. And what I'd also love is for you guys to let me know some of your favorite female characters in RPGs. So you can let me know that, or let any of us know that on our social medias. You can find me on Twitter at BillionairesXP. You can see some of my photos on Instagram at Rayfe, and my weekly streams on Twitch, Wednesday night, 7 p.m. Eastern, also at Rayfe. Sky, where can everyone find you?
I'm at SkyKnightXP on Twitter and Twitch, skyknight.xp on Instagram, where I mostly post Sims things. I'm not going to lie. And yeah, my stream on Twitch is on Tuesdays, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
All right. And Irene, where can everyone find you?
You can find me at irogue_XP on Twitter and Twitch. I'm normally streaming on Thursdays, 7 p.m. Eastern.
Excellent, excellent. And last but not least, Mel Zerker, where can everyone find you?
You can find me on Instagram, Facebook at FemisGamer, and you can find me on Twitter at FemisGamer3. And you can check out my D&D actual play live stream, which is on Twitch every Wednesday at 6:30.
Awesome, awesome. And don't forget to check out our website, xpbillionaires.wordpress.com, for stream schedules, podcast updates, and our quickfire reviews, as well as some of our written features that have come out over the last little while. So definitely check those up. And don't forget our monthly newsletters, which are available on our Coffee page. We have one out for February, so definitely check it out. Most of the changes are already obvious, but, read it anyway. It's kind of fun. It's coffee.com/xpbillionaires. All right, so that's going to be it for us this week. And remember, regardless of gender, if your characters are badass, you better keep gaming. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye-bye.